onstage electrocutions, horrifying motorboat accidents, and a dangerous game with a loaded gun, some of the music industry's most promising talents had their lives cut tragically short by some seriously freaky accidents. After Ozzy Osbourne split from Black Sabbath and went solo, much of the success he experienced can be attributed to Randy Rhoads. The former Quiet Riot guitarist was just 22 when he joined Osbourne, and the pair went on to collaborate on such heavy metal hits as Crazy Train and Mr. Crowley.
If it wasn't for Randy Rhoads, I know I wouldn't be here.
Sadly, that musical partnership ended in 1982 when Rhoads died in a horrific accident. The story of Rhoads' death began when he boarded a small airplane, flown by the driver of Osbourne's tour bus. The driver, who didn't have a valid pilot's license, thought it would be funny to buzz the bus, flying close to the vehicle while the other musicians were sleeping. On one of those passes, he flew too close and accidentally clipped the bus, shearing off one of the wings. This caused him to lose control of the aircraft, which crashed into a nearby house and exploded, killing all 3 people aboard. Osbourne later said in a sworn statement, "I was awoken from my sleep by a loud explosion." His future wife, Sharon Osbourne, was also on the bus at the time, recalling her panicked fiancé running toward the burning house with a fire extinguisher. She wrote in her autobiography, Sharon Osbourne Extreme, "And I just had no idea what had happened. And as I looked, I saw that there were bits of plane everywhere, and bits of body parts, and it was just so hard to take in." Jeff Buckley burst onto the music scene on the strength of his first release, the 1993 EP Live at Chennai. The following year, he followed that up with his debut studio album, Grace. Reviews were mixed, and the sales were disappointing, with Grace peaking at number 149 on the Billboard album chart. In 1997, Buckley was in Memphis, where he was about to start work on his second studio album. One evening, he and roadie Keith Fody were hanging out on the bank of the Mississippi River when he spontaneously decided to go for a swim. Fody cautioned Buckley as he strode into the muddy water. Moments later, Fody lost sight of Buckley. He'd never see him alive again. Authorities spent days searching the river for the corpse until it finally washed up on the shore. Buckley was just 30. If there is any silver lining to the tragedy, it's that the success that had eluded Buckley arrived posthumously. His cover of Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah hit number 1 in 2008, while Grace has gone on to sell more than 2.5 million copies.
Grace is what matters. In anything.
A founding member of Chicago, guitarist Terry Kath can be heard on the band's hits in the early to mid-1970s. He also sang lead on numerous tracks and wrote several songs that appeared on various Chicago albums. Kath had long held a fascination with firearms, an interest that yielded tragic results in January 1978. He paid a visit to Don Johnson, a Chicago roadie, and at some point in their conversation pulled out a .38 revolver, spinning it on his finger before pointing it at his own head. This understandably freaked Johnson out, and he asked Kath to knock it off. In an interview with Premier Guitar, Chicago trombonist James Pankow recounted what happened next. According to Pankow, Kath removed the clip from the gun, demonstrating to Johnson that the gun was unloaded, or so he thought. Pankow told the outlet he put the clip back in and he was waving the gun around his head. He said, "What do you think I'm gonna do, blow my brains out?" And just the pressure when he was waving the gun around the side of his head, the pressure of his finger on the trigger, released that round in the chamber. It went into the side of his head. He died instantly.
And Terry, I am convinced he's looking down. His being is smiling down on this entity.
As lead singer of the Yardbirds, Keith Relf was backed by 3 of Britain's most iconic guitarists, Eric Clapton, Jeff Beck, and Jimmy Page. When the band broke up in the late 1960s, Relf went on to a series of far less successful musical ventures. These included the prog rock band Renaissance and another prog group, Armageddon. Shortly after the release of Armageddon's 1975 debut album, Relf died in a freak accident at age 33. At the time, he was in his home cellar playing an electric guitar that was plugged into an ungrounded amp. When he rested his foot on a metal gas pipe, he was shocked by a powerful electric current that killed him instantly. As Yardbirds drummer Jim McCarty recalled in an interview for website Please Kill Me, Relf's tragic death came at a low ebb in his life due to marital issues and career frustrations. McCarty said, "I saw him actually the evening he died. It was really depressing. He was in a weird sort of hole somehow. I was, to be quite honest, quite pleased to get away from him." As co-founder of Tyrannosaurus Rex with frontman Mark Bolan, Steve Peregrin was instrumental in shaping the band's early folk rock sound. In the studio, he contributed bass, drums, and added musical flair via various instruments like the Chinese gong. He was fired from Tyrannosaurus Rex in 1969, shortly before Bolan took the band to massive success with the 1971 album Electric Warrior. As Took explained in a 1972 interview with NME, he'd felt he was being treated poorly by the band's management, who hated when he'd collaborate with such contemporaries as the Deviants and the Pretty Things. He told the outlet, the management would come and say, "Boy, don't go and jam with this group. It's bad for the image." And I'd go, "What? What image?" I'm Steve Took, well-known drug addict. By all accounts, Took floundered throughout the 1970s, his musical meanderings gaining little attention. On October 27, 1980, Took reportedly took a hallucinogenic substance and some morphine. At some point, a cocktail cherry became lodged in his throat, and he choked to death. Authorities ultimately determined those drugs hadn't contributed to his death, which had come from asphyxiation. When Jeff Lynne merged classical music with rock and electric light orchestra, he added a string section to achieve the lush orchestration behind such hits as Evil Woman and Living Thing. Among those musicians was cellist Mike Edwards, a member of the band in its early days before departing in 1975. The flamboyant Edwards made an impression on fans, typically wearing a top hat and tuxedo in concert. In 2010, Edwards was driving near his home in Devon, England, when a massive hay bale fell from a tractor. The hay bale went tumbling down a steep hill, gathering speed as it rolled until crashing into the front of Edwards' van. He then crashed into another vehicle. That driver was unharmed, but Edwards died when he was crushed by the weight of the hay bale. Scottish rock group Stone the Crows was founded in 1969, centering on the dynamic combination of singer Maggie Bell and guitarist Les Harvey. The group quickly attracted the attention of Peter Grant, manager of Led Zeppelin. With Grant now steering the band's career, Stone the Crows was poised to become the next big rock sensation. Before that came to pass, however, tragedy struck during a 1972 show in Wales when Harvey was electrocuted on stage and died instantly. According to Bell, he was the first member of the band to take the stage, and he hadn't noticed a loose wire that wasn't grounded. She said in an interview with the Daily Record, "It was a complete fluke, a tragedy. We hadn't even started the gig. We were just doing the sound check." Leslie went to the microphone and said to the people, "Please bear with us, we've got technical problems here." He touched the microphone and the guitar, and that was it. Bass player Charlie Colin was one of the founding members of Train, fronted by singer Pat Monahan. He played on the band's first 3 albums, which spawned a number of hits that included Meet Virginia, Drops of Jupiter, Tell Me, and Calling All Angels. Colin exited the group in 2003, reportedly to deal with substance use and mental health issues.
I took care of that, and I never done a drug since.
In May 2024, TMZ reported that Colin had accidentally died after slipping in the shower while house-sitting for a friend in Brussels. His sister confirmed that he'd passed away in what appeared to be a freak accident. R&B vocal trio Brownstone emerged in the mid-1990s with the group's debut album From the Bottom Up, spinning off the hit single If You Love Me. The sweet, soulful harmonies of the group's members, which consisted of Nicole Gilbert, Monica Dobie, and Charmayne Maxwell, sent the single to number 8 and even earned a Grammy nomination. Sadly, Brownstone would never achieve the success experienced from that first album and broke up in the late 90s. In March 2015, Maxwell was at her home in Los Angeles when she accidentally fell. In a freak confluence of events, the fall caused her to drop a glass she'd been holding, which broke into sharp shards upon hitting the floor. When Maxwell hit the floor milliseconds later, her throat was slashed by a piece of that broken drinking glass. She was taken to a hospital by her husband, where efforts to save her proved futile. Maxwell died at age 46. Kirsty MacColl broke through in the 1980s with such hits as There's a Guy Works Down the Chip Shop, Swears He's Elvis, and her cover of Billy Bragg's A New England. She remains best known, however, for joining the Pogues for their venomous 1987 Christmas ditty, A Fairy Tale of New York. In 2000, MacColl was vacationing in the Mexican resort town of Cozumel with her 2 sons when she tragically died in a freak accident. MacColl and her sons were scuba diving near a coral reef, accompanied by a diving instructor, in a protected area where boats were not permitted. Despite that, a 31-foot powerboat zipped through the water at a high speed, bearing toward MacColl and her sons. She managed to push her sons to safety, but was killed when the boat struck her. She was 41. It's fair to say that Swedish pop quartet ABBA ruled top 40 radio during the 1970s, with countless hits ranging from Waterloo to Dancing Queen. Providing the propulsive beat for those tracks was Swedish session drummer Ola Brunkert, who played on all the group's albums and toured with them. When the band split up in 1982, Brunkert moved to the Spanish island of Majorca. It was there in 2008 that he was found dead in the garden outside his home. A subsequent autopsy revealed his death to be the result of a freak accident, probably caused by an accidental fall. A spokesperson for local law enforcement said that he had seemingly hit his head and then slashed his neck on the plate glass door in his dining room. Bleeding profusely, he wrapped a towel around his wounded neck and appeared to have been seeking help when he fell down in the garden and died. He was 61 years old. In the annals of hip-hop history, the Sequence played a large and early role. Founded in the late 1970s, the all-female rap trio consisted of Cheryl the Pearl Cook, Gwendolyn Blondie Chisholm, and Angie Stone.
I don't think people realize that Angie's one of the pioneers of rap.
After the sequence split up in the mid-1980s, Stone followed other musical pursuits before settling into a solo career, buoyed by such hits as No More Rain in This Cloud and Wish I Didn't Miss You. However, her career was cut tragically short in March 2025. The 63-year-old singer was on her way to a gig in Georgia, traveling in a van with 9 other people, including backup singers and crew members. The vehicle reportedly skidded and flipped over before being smashed by a big rig. Stone was pronounced dead at the scene, the accident's only fatality.